In this video, we're going to break down Murder Mystery by Jamie Jones. We're going to create a little MIDI map of the entire arrangement to kind of see what's in there and figure out the kind of principles and the little secrets there in the arrangement. And for me, the arrangement is simply the story that you tell of the track. And the main characters in that story are going to be the hooks, so things like vocals and sound design elements, and then the groove, so the drums and the bass. And so those are the kind of primary things. You've got like a vocals, sound design, drums, and bass, and a track is just kind of the story that you tell with those elements. And so we're going to kind of map that out in a simple way and just kind of take away what we can from the arrangement to see how we can apply it in our own arrangement so that our tracks are awesome in the club. Just go off in the club and tell the right story, create a lot of excitement, get the dance floor moving, and create a lot of hype and all that. So this is a really cool track. Jamie Jones is, of course, an absolute legend and an absolute master. One of the things I always like about his tracks is this kind of idea of play. Like, he just plays around. Like, you can imagine him writing this track and just having the time of his life in a studio. Not too concerned about being overly structured, although he definitely has a lot of structure to his tracks. But the main takeaways is going to be kind of these like creative little things that happen, these creative decisions, and trying to think about why he's making them and then how we can kind of make them in our own tracks. But at the same time, seeing kind of like what kind of quote rules or guidelines he's following at the same time. So with that, let's just dive in and get going. Here we go. So right off the bat, just starting with the full groove. So full drums and bass, not the biggest deal in the world or deal breaker, but obviously easier for DJs if you're making your track to keep it real simple in the intro. But if you're a DJ like Jamie Jones, you can make your tracks however you want, because if you play them, then the likelihood that other people are going to play them is very high. But here we go. So let's get the drum. So I'll just call this the beat. So the beat will be like all of the drums. And if there are kind of like major changes to the drums, like a big sound comes in, we'll kind of map that out. And there's some interesting kind of drum developments in this track, especially even early on. But let's get this going here. So there we go. Let's just kind of map it out by 8 bars. So we got the beat, and then let's go get the bass here. Now, something that's interesting about this track that I was kind of checking out right before I kind of hopped on to make this is that there's kind of 2 basses going on. And you can kind of hear that if we jump over to the end of the track. Let me kind of show you this. So you can hear this kind of sine wavy bass. If I pull up a spectrum analyzer right here, look at that. It's already ready to go. See this? Boom, 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 boom. So just a sine wave down here. All right. And then that nice deep kick down there. And so you could hear that sine wave. Now check this out. If I start playing right here, you're going to hear a upper mid bass layer, but you're still going to hear that sine wave bass underneath. So this is made with 2 sounds in the bass. You've got that lower sub, and then you've got this kind of mid range. My guess is it's a sample because it just plays the same thing every single time. It doesn't have to be a sample, but it could be anything. It doesn't really matter. But if we play this. Okay, and so maybe we can map this out. So maybe we'll just map it out kind of like this. So I'm just going to go like this. Bump, bump, bump. And then, so this is going to be kind of the sub, and this guy goes down a little bit. So I'm just going to go down to like the lower 5th right there. Why not? You know what? We can actually get the notes at the end. Why not just get the notes? So I just want to show you, this is kind of cool. And there's one other thing I want to show you that kind of confirms that these are kind of 2 sounds. Although this right here, it confirms it already, but I want to show you something cool that you can look at. So we got some D sharp, bass lines in D sharp. And it goes down to the A. So it does go down to the lower 5th anyway. So, okay, so. Okay, cool. So that's basically the bass line, the sub right here, okay? Okay, so we got to duplicate that because that's the sub, but I'm just going to put the bass above the sub, which is actually in the same kind of octave range. It might even actually be an octave lower. So I'm going to do that actually, even though this bass is high pass relative to this sub right here. It's an octave lower for sure. It's just high pass. So watch it. So if it goes bump, 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 and then here it just goes like this, and that's it. And so this is what repeats over the track. We've got this kind of sub, and then we've got this kind of sample, we could say, that just sits on top, and it's kind of the mid bass, even though it's an octave lower. And what I mean by it is that the note itself, like the synth is playing back a D sharp that's an octave below what this sub is playing, but since this is high passed, the frequency content of this sound sits above this one. So I hope that makes sense. But and so what I'm going to do is let me just show you this because I might be missing a note. If I turn on a low pass filter and we throw that through a waveform analyzer like LFO tool here, check this out. If we play this, okay, so we're only looking at the frequencies below 100 hertz right now. So, okay, when you see a weird shape right here, that is the two layers of the bass phasing. Okay, so watch how sometimes you'll get these weird shapes in this area. And that's the two waveforms sitting on top, sometimes phasing in a way that cuts the frequencies, sometimes phasing in a way that boosts the frequencies. See that? See how sometimes it's way up here, sometimes it's way down here? So this is just a good example of like not really worrying about phase at all. Like it's not creating a lot of problems. You've got that sub, you've got the mid bass in there, and the bass is working, but you can clearly see the phase inconsistencies that come up. And I bring this up not to say that this is a problem. I bring this up to show you that this is not a problem. And so to give you the freedom to be like, man, if I want to use a sub and a mid bass, just go for it. All you have to do is just kind of put a high pass on the mid bass a little bit just to kind of get it out of the space of the sub. But you can see even here, it's not meticulously done, which again is not the end of the world, right? It still works. So that was just something I wanted to show you right off the bat because I thought that was interesting right before I hopped on to kind of record this. But here we go. Let's keep on going. We haven't even gotten that far into the track and we're already kind of looking at interesting things there. But okay, so we got the beat, we've got the bass. Anything else? One kind of interesting thing that I'm hearing, and then we're going to move on, is that you can hear there's almost a click to the front of the bass, especially the sub bass. Watch. Like here, like you'll hear a little tiny click. And maybe back here too. Check it out. Okay. Now, if I zoom in on this, you'll see there's a little tiny click here. That little kind of discontinuity somewhere. Where is that guy? That might not be the best picture of it. Let me just see if I can find it. Like even right here, you see that? That makes a click. Let me see if we can hear that. It's subtle, but I just want to show you that. That right there just creates a little click. And so that's where that would be coming from. Why is that? Who knows? Like maybe the sample was just cut off right here, and so you just get that discontinuity. And there you go. But that's creating that tiny little click. Again, not the end of the world. Producers worry about a lot of things and a lot of technical things. But at the end of the day, it's just like, man, just find a cool bass sound. Find some cool drums, find a cool vocal, find some cool sound design, put them together, tell a simple story, and you're golden, So all those little tiny little things that people fret about, they're just not the end of the world. All right, here we go. Okay, there we go. So here we get this kind of 16th note shaker. This will probably play throughout the track, but I'm just going to kind of map it out right now. So here we go. So just right off the intro, just kind of starting to build up the drums a little bit. All right, and so now we're going to get this nice little hat lift. And so I'm going to call this hat lift, I'm going to call it trashy, just because it has this kind of like trashy top end quality to me, which sounds really cool. Wow. Okay, so this, right, I'm going to call this 16th shaker tight. And then there's another 16th note shaker that comes in kind of randomly at 14 at what's it called? 4 bars in. 16th shaker loose. And so let's go over here like this. There we go. Okay, it doesn't sound like anything really comes in there, but we are going to get some synths coming in this second one. So let's go ahead and get like synth 1, we'll just call it. What are those notes real quick? Let's see. Bam, 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 bam. So E, C sharp, D. Interesting. So that'd be Phrygian. Is that the same down here? Is that an octave lower? No, no, no. Okay, so we have A down to F sharp up to G sharp. That's interesting. So what was that? Interesting. So this right here is a fifth. Like these, this is just playing a fifth here like that, but. That's a cool sound. All right, but cool. Let's just map that out really quick. Bam, bam, bam. Bam, bam, A, F sharp. And then that kind of like slide up then to the G, I think right there. Let's check it. Yeah, cool. Something like that. And then that probably just repeats. Let's see, maybe around there, like this. All right, and now there's this interesting rhythmic thing comes in that's like ticka 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 ticka. That sounds like it would be a drums, but it's kind of like it's not kind of like anything. It's a synth, and it's a synth that kind of plays throughout the track. And what they do is I called this delay play because I'm sorry, I should actually call this decay play. Oh boy, because you'll see how Jamie Jones just kind of plays around with the decay time on the synth, which is really cool. Maybe we'll kind of map that out too, but let's see. But now we got some tambourine texture in here, so I'm just going to do like tam texture. And let's color that here. Awesome. So that's right there. Cool. Just so you can hear that, check it out. So I'll play right here. When we go into here, you're going to hear this kind of tambourine texture on top. Okay, and then right here, this is just playing 16ths. I'm in 1 E and a 2 E and a da 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 da. Can you watch this? Okay, that's just a really tight delay on a synth. And so if we're going to go get Serum, for example, and just show you how something like this would be done, is we could just, let's just do like 16ths for example, and then duplicate that. Whoops, that's not right. Let's just duplicate these like that. Bam, 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 bam. And then he's going to play like a little bit of a melody, but I'll just kind of show you. So for example, like if we, let's go in here. It's probably going to be down a little bit. Let's see. Okay. And then if we then, let's give a little bit on the, but if I now go like this, that's kind of what it does. And then throughout the track, he also has like this kind of like panning on it. I'm kind of getting ahead of ourselves because we haven't even played the sound yet, but, and maybe chorus, maybe. It's just, it definitely has a cool sound, but there's a cool kind of panning going on it. But basically, what happens is he's just playing with this right here. And that's what's going on this sound. And so let's mute this guy though. All right, cool. And so weird. Okay. Interesting. Again, just kind of doing things like randomly here in the middle of a 4-bar, but you know, again, Jamie Jones, again, he's gonna do what he does. So this right here is gonna be just the. Maybe we'll actually separate these out because he took the sub away. So we'll have a sub and then we'll have bass mid. And so I'll just basically remove this here from the bass mid. And I'll put the bass mid on top because that makes sense frequency-wise. And then this we'll get rid of. So this is now just the sub. And we'll just kind of send that across. And then here, when the vocal comes in, this is just kind of the bass mid. So we can kind of see what that looks like. Okay. So that's what this looks like down here. But you can see this thing is playing on the same note every single time. You see that? And then the sub bass is also playing right here. But the sub is going bump, 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 bump down to the 5th. And you can see again that this mid bass layer is actually an octave below where the sub is, but just a little bit of filtering right here. You see that? So that first octave is pretty low. That first harmonic is pretty low. And then when he plays that that sub, if we come over here, you'll see again that it will just move down a little bit. See that? All right. And so he's got those two basses going. And I was saying that like in the beginning, if you want to be safe, you can high pass out some of those lower harmonics on the mid bass, for example. But he's not even doing that. And in this case, you wouldn't want to do that because the mid bass is the guy that has that lower harmonic anyway. And so if we were going to high pass the mid bass, you would take out that lower harmonic, and this guy doesn't have enough weight. The sub here doesn't have enough weight to kind of serve as the sub. So if we play over here where it's only the sub, this is a little bit too high for a bass. All right, you could totally work though. It could totally work because that kick is huge and it's sitting down in F sharp. So you've got enough of the low end in there, but that's a little bit high for a bass. You can see that mid bass layer that's not in here right now plays that octave harmonic down. It's an octave lower than the kind of quote sub that I'm calling a sub here. Almost like this kind of tom percussion-y bus, you know, like I'm calling it a sub, but it's not even really the sub, but we're going to continue with the language anyway. That kick is nice and beefy down there. All right, so let's keep going. Okay, so what drums go away? So here there's going to be no kick. And then what about all this stuff? Let's see. We got the trashy hat. We don't have the tambourine texture here. Man, do we have the shakers? We don't seem to have the loose shaker. Do we? Oh, I think we do actually. All right, so we have the loose shaker, just taking out the tambourine, settling down the energy a little bit because the tambourine gives that super top end. Okay, and then here we got the vocal. Maybe we'll just map out the length of it. If you're using a reference, the easiest way to kind of use a reference is to think about the length that the hooks play. So for example, how long does this vocal last? Like another track that I just broke down last week was, oh man, don't tell me I forgot it. No, it's After Party, right? And in the After Party track, the whole vocal is like, this is the joint for the after party or something like that. And that's the whole vocal. And so if you find a vocal that's just simply that length, that would be a good starting point to kind of map out according to the reference, at least, and you don't have to go exactly 1-to-1, but you can use it as a starting point, And so, for example, I want to map out the length of this vocal because then if I'm just going to use this as a starting point for inspiration and ideas, I can go find something that kind of fits this and see what I can do with it. All right, so it goes out right there, right? All right, and so we're just getting this kind of call response between the two, but let's see what else is going on. Are these synths playing? I can't quite hear if this synth is still playing, but let's go ahead and definitely map in that other synth that's coming in, the ba 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 ba. And that might not even be a synth. It might just be some kind of like crazy sound design thing with the vocals or something. Like throwing a vocal through a resonator. There's a phaser on there you can hear. I don't know. Maybe I'll just call this like Vox synth question. It's going to put a question mark on there, but who cares? Like when you hear something like that, you might not know how to make it, but what you can ask yourself is, well, what does it kind of sound like to me? Like of the effects that I know, what does that kind of sound like? And so to me right away, I hear some kind of resonator that's kind of popular these days. And then I also hear like a phaser in there because you can kind of hear that meow kind of sound like. And so what I would do is I would take the main vocal, I'd throw it through a resonator, and I'd get a phaser, and I'd start playing with that. Again, not to necessarily go 1-to-1 on the track, but if I'm just trying to cook up an idea, I can use this as an inspiration starting point to just play with something, And so this is just in a call response. So. You can hear that kind of going up right at the end. I guess I'll just kind of map that out too. Like you could just hear it going dun 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 dun. Kind of goes up on the offbeat, doesn't it? So kind of like that. Okay, and then I'm just gonna move it up a little bit because maybe I'll just move it up an octave. What the heck did I put this on? Oh, shoot, I need to duplicate. And then we'll just move this down to C3. Why not? Because that's just the starting point. Since that goes up, I'm just going to pop it up an octave. It's not going up an octave. Maybe it is, but I'm just going to put it there just so we know that it's going up. Something that's cool about this, to break this down, is like you're kind of getting this nested call response. So here's a call and here's a response. All right. Now here's the call again, but there's a little bit of a variation. So you can call this, some people would call this like A, B, A, C, or even B asterisk, because it's some kind of modification of the B right here. you know. Another way to look at this is what I just called it, is like a nested call response. So here we have a call, here we have a call and then response. But here and then we have a call and then a different response. So what that happens is we get this call here and then a response here, right? So we get a higher level call with an internal call response, and then a higher level response with an internal and then internal call response as well. All right. So I think this guy is still going, because even when that vocal's playing, you can hear that 16th. You can even hear this guy start to open. I don't even know, like you can hear that start to open. Maybe it's just playing with the phaser also in Serum or whatever the synth was made. I'm just thinking in Serum because that's kind of how I would approach making a synth, but who knows what he did. Okay, so this guy is even more high passed. I think I'm going to be working in 4-bar increments here. So high pass more. So maybe I'll just put like HP for just high pass. So this guy keeps going. What about this? So we're going down low again. And then all this, let's just bring this over. So is this... So this is high passing up, HP up. So this is gradually high passing out. Okay, and then we're gonna get this kind of like organ sound, bam, bam, kind of a classic sound there. And we'll just kind of map this right there. But then this guy just kind of takes over, So let's map this back here because you can hear that kind of similar movement. Okay, and then it goes up at the end, just like that, all right? And so, cool. And then this guy... So that sounds like it's playing fifths again. So it's going D sharp, D sharp, E. So bam, bam. And then bump, bump. So just like that. And then, you know, we could put the fifth up here like that, but it could be like a fifth inside the sound itself, or in the synth. You could just like do +7 on an oscillator and get that up there. But okay, so there we go. But check this out. Notice this pattern. Notice how the kind of pattern is continuing. So this pattern is happening over a bar, right? And so here we have one bar, and then we get a response. Another bar, we get a response. Bar, response, bar, response. Now this changes a little bit. Here we get a bar, but then we get a response on a bar. Bar, and then another response, you know? So you can kind of see that even though we're switching up, the little pattern that we're starting to expect of going back and forth across a bar is going to continue. So let's see. This guy still seems like it keeps going here. So all these seem to keep going, the drums, but the bass goes away here. Okay, and then we're going to get that mid bass back over here. And you can hear that there's a little bit of a snare roll, right? And so, you know, classic thing to do, right? Jamie Jones is doing a bunch of creative, cool stuff here, but it's still a snare roll. Why? Because it builds tension. Where are we going? If you're building tension, what are we doing? We're going into a drop. Okay, we're going to drop somewhere. And so, cool. So the question is, when does that snare begin? It's not a 16th note snare. It's a broken snare roll, basically meaning it's playing a, for me, it means it's playing a pattern other than 16th notes. So it's even starting back there, you know? So we got the snare roll, and as it approaches towards the end, it starts to accelerate, right? Typical. So... All right, so let's just kind of move this out, just kind of get that pattern of the snare roll so you can see. I think it's starting to pick up. So right here, is that right? Nah, that's just the normal snare. My bad. All right. Is that playing over here though? No. So I just wanted to make sure the snare that I was mapping out was not just simply part of the beat. And it's not. So, okay, let's keep going. So I'll play from right here. Ooh, here we go. Now it's starting to pick up. Hold up. So it's kind of like this. Yep. Okay. Wait a minute. Let me see. Hold on. And then, so once again, bump, bump. Let's see. And then here we go. Okay, now it's following the kind of like the pattern of the organ there. Bump, bump, bump. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Bump, bada. Bump, bada, bada, bump. Bump, bump. There we go. And now we're going to get 16ths. Let's just see where it goes to. So. Okay. And so we're getting rid of these two because they're following the organ again. And then get rid of that. All right, cool. So that was quite the effort. At least we got the snare roll, because I wanted you to see how it just starts off broken, but then as you approach the end, you're starting to get these extra little notes that just pick up the rhythm, create the instability, build the tension that takes you into where? The drop. All right, and so let's see. All right, cool. So now let's just get all this over here. We got the beat. Let's get the sub and the mid bass over here. And we got the vocal. Let's bring the vocal over here. And you can hear the tambourine texture in there. Just want to make sure we got it all. Is there anything that we're missing from the drums? Let's see. Not really. Sounds pretty similar to what was happening before. Okay, and then, cool, so let's move this over. So check this out, this is interesting. So here, the vocal was interacting with this sound. Okay, and then this sound was interacting with this sound, right? So the kind of vocal synth was interacting with the organ. But now the vocal is interacting with the organ. You see that? So kind of this interesting little switch to keep things interesting. So, for example, if you wanted to mess with that, you would need 3 sounds. And that would be really cool because then you have one sound interacting with another sound. And then you have a different sound. Oh my gosh. So sound 1 starts interacting with sound 2, right? And then sound 2 picks up and starts interacting with sound 3 when the vocal goes away, sound 1, right? But then when you come over here, now sound 1 interacts with sound 3. So it's just a way to keep things interesting. It's nothing crazy. Again, he's just playing. And so let's see what happens. But it's still happening on that bar by bar basis. That's 1 bar interaction back and forth. Okay, and then we're getting this sound back here coming back in. That's cool. Let's see. Is that right? Okay, and then so let's get all these into view here and duplicate it because now something else is happening. Okay, so it sounds like this new 16th comes in. If I play here and then here, that sounds pretty similar. But as soon as I play here, there sounds like there's like a louder 16th note that plays. All right, so I'm just going to add a 16th here. And I don't know what to even call it, but like 16th stronger. Why not? All right, so maybe like closed hat, CL hat. Just because that would be a little bit stronger than a shaker and tambourine, a little bit more mid-rangey, a little bit punchier, a little bit more articulate. So cool. And then we get this kind of really cool edit, and whatever this sound is right there sounds like it could be something from the mid bass. So I'm just going to use that sound, and that's just counting it off. So I think they're just playing 8th notes here. And so we'll just go like this. Could be a different sound. It's probably a different sound, but whatever. But one thing that's cool is notice how this sound right here comes in and just is working with this one. So you can see kind of how this would be made. Like if you're someone that uses the Ableton session view, you can imagine how a track like this could be made by just stacking up these layers that ultimately work together. I don't use this view, but you can also, of course, do the exact same thing in arrangement view, where you just keep on stacking synths like this, right? Like these two kind of work together. Those are cool. And then, with the vocal just going back and forth. So let's see what happens over here now. Okay, there we go. Cool. So now we're going to get that synth that I was telling you about earlier right here. So that guy's coming in with that closed decay that we were talking about. And now there's this like deep, I don't even know what to call it. Maybe I'll call it in a bass for now. Like I'm just going to call it like so I don't need the number for now. Deep tone, something like that. So you can hear that down there. Like, so I'll just put like a little marker right there. Okay, let's check the drums really quick. We definitely need to put this in here like that. That doesn't sound like it's in here, so cool. Okay, but finally, now we're going to get these kind of like openings with the synth on the decay. So for example, if I show the automation here and we just mess around with the decay a little bit, so go like this, create a new little lane for it, we can kind of map out the automation on it. So, all right, so it just goes up a little bit. Okay, and then this guy plays, what, is it every bar? Yeah, okay, so it's playing here too. Okay, and then we're gonna get another little jump right here, so wah. Cool. Let's bring this over like that. This keeps on playing. But right away, again, we're getting some principles. Again, you can see how Jamie is just playing with stuff. Like he's just, it's really cool because you can kind of see the process at play, which is like he's just looping and he just kind of comes up with these little kind of motifs within these loops. And then the arrangement is just kind of like alternating between those over time. But you can see like we're already kind of getting a structure here where we have like your kind of traditional A section placed for 16 bars. So A section. And then we can maybe call this a B section. I don't want to be too premature, but you can see that the key is that you don't necessarily need an A section, B section, right? The idea is just handing off from one hook to a different hook or a slightly related hook to just keep things interesting. So we'll call this B section. And so this A section right here, we can label it. What is it? This is going to be the Vox call response CR with organ and I'm just going to call a synth 1. And then B section is going to be we're just going to call it the decay synth. Right? And so we'll call it that. There we go. And let's just see what happens. Again, look at this. Like, I don't know what's going to happen over there, but maybe there's going to be a C section that comes up. So same thing. Any development in the drums right here? Okay, and now again, we're getting a new sound. It's just a new sound that was added to the loop that works with everything. You know, like you can almost imagine just having this huge arrangement just stacked of these little things. Like look at this, like you've got this bass sound, this bass sound, this sound, this sound, this sound, this sound, this sound. We're going to get a new one, and they could all just be stacked on top of each other and they would probably work. But that's one way to create an epic payoff. So later on in the track, maybe they all do play at the same time, right? And so what you're doing through the beginning of the track is you're just kind of piecemeal, stepwise introducing them so that at the end of the track, they all come together and then that's the payoff. It doesn't have to be the case, but you could think about how that would work as a payoff because you're introducing these things separately and the listener likes them all. They think they're all cool. And so the ultimate payoff for the listener would be bringing all those sounds together. But here we're just getting a new one. And we're just going to call this like a distorted tom. Tom dist for distorted is what I'm going to call that guy. And so let's see what's happening over here. All right, so all right, so again, we're getting things starting in the 4-bar here. So I'm going to just duplicate right here. So just a little bit of an extension there. Again, Jamie Jones just doing creative things, which is cool. And then here, so let's duplicate that because that continues. And then we have the distorted tom. All right, and what's that guy doing? We can very easily see what note that is playing. So that's just playing a G sharp. So I guess we could put this on G sharp. So bam, 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 bam. So is that right? Is that right? Oh my gosh. Wow. Why is my brain not working right now to figure this out? Okay, so let's see. So here is a 30-second note. So is this where this thing plays? Yeah, okay, so it is playing on the... Okay, and then here, yeah, and then here, yeah, and then here, no, but here. Okay, so it is just playing a dotted 8th note rhythm, or a 3/16th note rhythm. Okay, there we go. Because as I was tapping it, it felt like regular tapping, like the period was the same. But all right, cool, there we go. Okay, so we're getting this, and then you can hear the play with the synth a little bit more, right? The cutoff is moving a little bit more. And it's starting earlier, you see that? Now this is changing, so... Okay, and now this is moving down, okay? Okay, so where's it moving down to? Is it moving down to D sharp? Yep, okay, cool. So moving down to the tonic, so going 4-1, 5, there we go. Oh, hold up, different, stops a little bit early. Okay, cool. Let's check out the automation here. Okay, you hear that extra little movement? Let's get that in there. Okay, so then we're getting a little bit more over here. Okay, and then this duplicates. Here we go. Oh, okay, so that is opening more there. Okay, listen to that. Now this thing's getting crazy. The synth. Okay, and then it stops. Okay. All right. Do you see? Do you see how this works? Like how he's doing it? He's just playing. He's just getting all these kind of like sounds that just kind of work together. And he's just kind of telling that story over time. But you can see, like, if we start this guy right here, this is kind of like the C section, right? Because you get that little sound in there. So this is like C section. And it's going to be like distorted tom kind of takes the kick, takes the show. Another kind of principle that's going on here is that, maybe we'll color it gray, is the idea that, like, he's not introducing too many crazy things at once. So as soon as that kind of this kind of 16th note decay synth is playing, he lets that just kind of be, right? Because he wants you to kind of hear that movement in the cutoff. And then once you're like, okay, I get it, then now there's that new kind of distorted tom that comes in here. And now the cutoff is getting even crazier. But again, that's just he's playing. And what I mean by playing is, like, you know, producers can just get so worried about the exact placement of things. And it's like, well, what if you just like started moving the knobs around, you know? That's what this is. That's what I mean by play. And like, it applies in so many different levels. Like, we're looking right here at Jamie Jones is playing around with a cutoff on a synth, just making it more dramatic as it kind of interacts with this kind of crazy distorted tom. So these kind of just vibe check kind of work together, you know? But at the same time, like, he's playing around with the arrangement. Like, what the hell is this move, you know? Like, these kind of back and forths. Like, the arrangement is also play. He's just kind of going by, like, what's cool. Let's get all these kind of sounds together, and then what kind of feels right as it kind of goes along. Still keeping the idea of clear blocks and sections and chunks, just to give the listener these little moments that they can kind of enjoy over time, you know? He's not overloading them. He's just finding these cool things that fit together and just kind of presenting them over time. All right, and these nice little organized chunks. Let's see what happens next. Okay, and now we're going to bring that vocal in. So we're starting to stack, right? So do we still have the decay synth? So decay synth goes away after that kind of crazy exit on there, but we're still getting the distorted tom. Let's bring that over. Let's also bring over the drums. Are we getting the kind of deep tone right here? Let's see. Okay, I don't hear it there. Oh yeah, it is there. My bad. What about over here? Is it playing over here too? Nope. So just right here. And then what about here? Yep. So it continues there. Let's bring that over. You can hear there's this other sound on top of that distorted tom, you know, like just some kind of higher layer there that's maybe even part of the sound. I have no idea, but you can hear there's a higher layer to that. I'm just going to even write with a higher layer. Higher. There you go. Okay, and then look at that, just changing it up. So now the vocal's going to drop down an octave. There we go. Okay. So here we're just going to go back to, I guess what we'll do is we'll just kind of alternate these colors. So we got and then we'll go, what here's going to be D equals Vox and dis tom. There we go. You can still hear the decay synth. The decay is just closed. So I'm going to just duplicate this and get rid of the automation here. And because it's still playing the 16th, you can still hear that kind of noisy, clicky, kind of ticka, 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 ticka. And so something like that. Hold up. Yeah, you can hear that. You can hear the automation right here. See that? Right there. So then we got that vocal. Oh, hold up. But no vocal right there. And then we get the octave down over here. All right. So slower presentation of the vocal. Okay, let's get this over here because we got another. And we have an automation right here. All right, so you can see where this is happening, right? So it's at the end of the vocal, right? Let's do something fun, you know? Boom, you just felt it. Let's open up the cutoff. Same thing over here, the end of the tom thing, we get that little thing, right? So these little cutoff automations are playing kind of in the gaps of the vocal, the distorted tom, boom, right there. Also kind of playing towards what I would call the punks, although probably not going to break that down in this video. There's so many breakdowns of punks in other videos. The key thing about this track is just the play, just playing with things. All right, let's see. All right, let's move these over again. Okay, so now this guy's getting a little bit crazier, as you can hear. Okay, and now the vocal's not going up an octave, but it's a different performance, right? So that's a chill performance, you know, just like a dude getting on the mic and just saying something. But then when we get over here, it's another performance, like it's another take of the vocal, right? Just getting a little bit more hyped, you can say. So let's switch out of arraign of the, and I'm going to just pop that up an octave, right? So high, we'll just call this mid, we'll call this low, we'll call this high for now. Okay. So let's duplicate this over, get that cutoff automation. You can hear that cutoff automation right in the beginning. So it goes down and then up again like that. And then it goes crazy. And we still have the distorted tom. This is what I was talking about, that chorus and that panning. You can really start to hear that coming out now. And then what is this one? So this is the mid one. And then let's get all of the drums over like this. Okay, we're still getting that deep tone right there. Just want to make sure that's there. Okay, and then it just opens for a second, goes way down right here. And then opens right there, like that. Cool. So, and then we're going low again. He's just playing. All right. So mid, low, high, mid, low, you know, like, and this is just such a good lesson, man. Like when you find these cool elements, yeah, as long as you're just presenting something cool over time and they work together, then you can just keep it going. Like, yeah, this kind of reminds me of the Pause track. Oh shoot, is it Too Cool? Is that the one? I forgot. Anyway, but there's like it's like a 3-bar drop, and he just keeps changing what's going on every 8 bars. Kind of cool move. Awesome, awesome. So that gets crazy right here. Okay, so that gets all crazy right here. So now we're getting the high one over here. Okay, now you can hear this thing getting nuts. So let's make it go nuts over here. Awesome. Okay, all right. Are we getting a break? Okay, but check this out, right? So we were talking about how all these things are going to come together. Now, the sounds that we're playing over here, we do have the vocals, but we don't have this sound, like this one right here. Okay, that plays in what we can call the A section right here. We also don't get the organ over here, right? Okay, but you can see how each sound here is just introduced. So we get the synth that's playing kind of that 16th note with the kind of decay. Right, so that gets introduced, and then he brings in the distorted tom, and then you can see the vocal comes in, but it's only playing kind of halftime, you can see. And then as we ramp up to the last kind of 8 bars here, is this 8 bars or is it 4 bars? I don't even know. 8 bars. Now we're just getting the vocal playing every 2 bars. The cutoff on this is getting crazier, and the distorted tom is still playing. So you can see that kind of progressive building of the elements, you know? And so it's not overloading the listener, right? That's a principle. He's definitely playing, but he's staying inside the lanes of what's going to be, you could say, like consumable or for the listener, you know, what they can enjoy at any given time, like just kind of build it up for them over time and just have all these things play. And it almost sounds like chaos, but it's definitely ordered chaos, which is what music is, right? It's ordered noise in a way that we find pleasing. It's what makes the difference between music and noise, is the organization, the structure. All right, cool. So let's see what happens next. Okay, did that sound ever come in? Like, okay, so there's a new organish sound that comes in that's not the same as this one that comes in over here. Let's see. Okay, well, we definitely have that mid bass still going. What else do we have? We have some kind of tops. I'm just going to go right here, and I'm just going to be like tops only. Actually, that just sounds kind of like the trashy hat, so I'm just going to put that in. All right, and then there's also the snare, so I'm just going to put like tops, so like hat and snare, something like that. All right, but, okay, so we have the mid vocal coming in, and then you can hear again this new organ. We'll just call it organ 2. So this is going to be, we'll call this like organ chord progression, because definitely playing a chord progression. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, what we're going to do to make our lives easier, so I'm going to just right click in here and insert time signature change. And you can see now that this all locks to the grid. So that's just going to make it a lot easier. And okay, cool. So now I can kind of see where the heck I am in terms of the 8 bars. And okay, so here we are. Awesome. So let's map this out. So bump. Not this again. Why is it so hard for me tonight to pick out that? And then after this one, it should be here. Okay. Okay. Oh. Okay, cool. So he's just going a step back over here. So like this. And then it should be right there. Is that it? Yeah, okay, cool. So. And then he's got another, let's just move it down a little bit. So let's see. Okay, maybe a little bit lower because then we got to kind of get this middle voice here. He's just moving around a chord. So maybe we'll go down here and then. So then maybe we'll go down over here. So you're just playing chords, very strange chords, very strange. But they sound cool, so that's all that matters. And then we're just going back and forth on the vocal synth here. So let's bring this guy back, right there. Okay, so we're getting the mid one again right there. And then we're once again going back and forth between the vocal and what I'm calling the vocal synth. So just like over here, right? Okay, so this is kind of just calling back to the break that happened earlier, but now we're just getting this kind of chord lift in there, so a little bit elevated. And you can hear the snare roll coming in there. I'm not going to map this one out because that took way too much time last time. Okay, and then here we've got, wait, hold on. Oh, okay, and then here, once again, we're going to the high pass, so a similar move to what was going on back here. Here we have the full mid bass. And then here we go to a high pass. And then same with here. Here we have the full mid bass. I'm calling it the mid bass, but it's funny because it's the one with the sub. It's the sub and the mid bass, but you know, whatever. I think you get it. And then here we're going into a high pass. Now, is that going to high pass up too? Okay. Again, another play thing. Again, just playing around, like not being too worried about things, just having fun, just messing around. Like this bass now is playing a different pattern. Like, right? So then you get like a little skippy note right there. Or maybe it's playing right there, whichever. But we'll figure it out, but that is doing something different. So the question is this doing something different? So no, this one's staying the same. What's this guy doing? Ba-dum, bum, bum. Yeah, and it just randomly plays here rather than here. Like ba-dum, bum, 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 just giving that extra rhythm. And that is kind of, if we look, that is kind of mimicking the rhythm that the organ chord is kind of playing. And so this right here, this is the note that's different. That's now playing together with this one. But if we come over here, this note right here is the same note over there, but you can see up above, the bass note is playing back here, which is the normal rhythm. But over here, these are just playing together. Why? No reason. Just playing. That's what I kind of mean, is just playing around, but still living inside the principles of what works. So if you've, again, Like I opened the video talking about the 4 things: drums, bass, vocals, sound design. If you can get things that go together like that, that's the most important thing. Like Jamie Jones here is telling a cool story over time that's exciting because it kind of keeps changing and kind of progressively building. He's being extremely creative. It's not like a highly structured A section, B section, 32 bar drop, then getting in it. And that works fine. That both of these are fine. But what I'm saying is like the most important thing is what's going on here, which is you've just got cool sounds and you're telling a story that still develops in kind of a coherent way, even though it's there's play inside the arrangement. Maybe that's the best way to put it. A lot of times when I do breakdowns, like when I talk about the HC2 formula, HC2 formula is an example of not playing around with the arrangement. It's just being very strict in terms of what story you're telling with the elements and when they come in and come out. And it works. Like it doesn't work because like everyone's kind of copying each other. It works because like that story, the HG2 formula, the story that's told in the HG2 formula, when it gets played live, just works, right? It's like the 3-act structure of a movie. It just works. That doesn't mean there's not other ways to tell stories. Think about Memento, by Christopher Nolan. This is kind of more like Memento. This is much more structured than Memento, but I'm just saying he's getting a little bit creative with the storytelling, with the arrangement, but it still works because those core things are still on point. Awesome groove, awesome drums, awesome bass, awesome vocals, and awesome synths, awesome interactions between these cool sounds. So at the highest level, nailing it, but that's kind of for me, what characterizes Jamie Jones. Anytime I listen to a Jamie Jones tracks, it's just like, this guy's just going to play around and I'm going to be there for that kind of journey. And so it's kind of cool to map this out. I don't know if I've really ever mapped out a Jamie Jones track before, but it's what I always think when I listen to his tracks. So let's keep going. All right, so let's move this guy over because this is HP up. Oh, so HP up, and let's go like that. Again, because that's going again, and what else? So no more bass. Okay, exact same move as before. Just switching to the more faster presentation of the vocal synth. Now, the one thing that's different is before we got this organ right here. And another thing is that we had that kind of 16th note decay synth playing. Ticka, 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 ticka. We just don't have these things over here, but you still see the exact same hooks are being used here in the break, right? And it's the underlying kind of support from the sound design that's changing, that's different. But I do hear the 16th decay synth in here. So I'm going to bring that in. It's just not moving around in terms of the cutoff. So let's just delete all that right there. Why is that not working? Because I didn't select the automation lane. There we go. All right. So, okay. Cool. And then he ends with this organ right here. Okay. Like, cool. Why not? Right? A little bit of a payoff moment there by cutting to that. Let's just make sure we got it all right. So I'm just going to delete everything but that organ right there. Just bringing it back. Okay, so right here, what I'll do is I'll break this down into 16ths because that's what he's doing. Just to kind of show where it happens. Again, a principle, just building tension. You've got the broken snare roll into a 16th snare roll, which happens all the time. Broken snare roll. There we go. Okay, a little bit of a break. Okay, so same thing as before, just hitting those kind of 2 notes that the organ played back here. So if I pop back over here, you'll see the same move happens right here. So bop, bop, right there. And that's on top of the organ. But there's no organ right here, but there is going to be one right here. All right, and let's figure out what the heck is going to happen over here. Let's get all this groove stuff. Hold on. Okay, so now we're going into a section where this organ's taken over. Let's get rid of this because this only plays in the payoff right there. And so, okay. Wow, what? Wow, okay, and now we're switching it up even more. So what do we got? Bum, bum. So what is that? D sharp. So, bum. Bum, bum. So that's going to be F sharp on the top note. So B, B. So that's going to be B. Let's see. So if we change this here to D sharp minor. Where's minor? It's technically Phrygian. Let's just go to Phrygian. And so, bum, bum, I just want to see what notes are in there. And we need to get a piano on here. So piano, or you know what? Let's just get an organ. I'm not going to listen to the sound design. Come on. Let's go. Just find it. All right. Nope, not that one. No one has that one. Let's see. Okay, let's just go to instruments. Okay. Okay, we're not going to listen to it. We're just going to pick that because I just need to get the, I just need to be able to lock to the scale. And that's only possible if we have the, some kind of instrument right there. All right, so let's fold the scale. And then he's going down. So that's dun, 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 bum, 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 bum. And then he's going down to F. Okay, so this is just, yeah, he's just playing fifths. So we have to unlock the scale because he's just going down. F is not even in the D sharp Phrygian, which again, like people are going to be worried like, oh, if I play out of key and stuff, but like, especially if you're playing with chords, like the root of the chord here will be in Phrygian, but the fifth isn't always going to be in. The fifth isn't always going to be in the, if you play the fifth of every note inside the scale, there's going to be one note that doesn't have a proper fifth, that will have a diminished fifth. And that's what we're kind of getting over here. But we're not going to go into that. We're just going to map it out. Bum, bum. Okay, so he's going like this. And then these guys, we need to just go down -7, sound to B. There we go. So if I solo this, okay, so if I play that, if I bring this in, turn that way up, you can hear, I'm going to pan it left so you can definitely hear ours. All right, and so you can hear that we got it right, but I just wanted to show you that. And okay, so let's get that. Okay. Okay, let's go get the vocal. So that is the low one. Okay, so we're just starting on the low one. Okay, now you can hear we have this kind of Vox chop. So if I go Vox chop here. Honestly, I don't even want to figure out that rhythm right now. He's just doing some kind of interesting rhythm right there, and we're just going to put in a Vox chop rhythm. And let's see what else is going on. But this is a lift, right? Or technically, I call this an elevation. An elevation is where you have a sound that elevates or even a moment or a sound that elevates over and above what came before, you know? Actually, this sound right here is kind of like an elevation. Like, this is a very exciting sound. But if we play over here, you can hear that's not at the same energy level as this. Maybe if we move over here, yeah, that's cool, but not at the same energy level as this. All right? And so if we start getting these sounds in here, again, that's going to go back to what we were talking about together, going back earlier, I mean, where all these sounds are going to kind of come together and pay it off. Another principle at work here is like, this is the peak, right? Well, we might be working up a little bit more to the peak, but this is the peak so far in the track. This is the highest energy point yet. And of course, it comes in at towards the end of the break, kind of at the climactic section of the track, working up, building up to the climactic section. Any vocal here? Okay, so the chop continues. Now we're going to get the mid vocal. And again, like I was telling you before, like the whole vocal is basically this guy, pitched down, and then higher. If this one's pitched up or a different performance, I'm actually not sure. That might be the same thing, just pitched up. It sounded to me like a different performance, but it might just be pitched up, which means the whole track, again, is centered around this vocal that is about a bar long, you know? And so this track is a great example of using a vocal. Like if you're wondering, I only have a vocal and it's only a bar long, what else can I do? This, you know? Like these ideas are things that you could play with. You just keep stacking synths. Just get a loop going and just keep adding, keep going, just keep having fun, keep playing. And then you can kind of just tell a story over time like this. So very cool. All right, let's keep going. And then we're going back to the intro kind of synth over here. We'll see where that's playing. And then we're going low, like, again, there's no rhyme or reason here. He's just playing. He's arranging really by feel, you know. And if you're Jamie Jones, you've played thousands of shows, you get a feel for it. If you have if you're lucky enough to be a DJ to test the track out, you test the track out, you see how it feels, you see how people are reacting. An interesting move here is when you go out of that big organ, this is a big step down. And I wonder if he's just feeling out moving towards the outro, because these are settling moves. I was thinking maybe he'll kind of lift over time a little bit more, and maybe he will, I don't know. But these feel like settling moves, settling in the sense that we're moving the energy levels down as we move to the outro to start mixing into another track. So let's see what else is going on. So... One thing that's interesting is listen to this chop is much more eighth notes, right? Da, 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 da. But over here it's like different rhythm. Yeah, this is almost like a chaos rhythm. This is like straight 16th was 8s with what I call like skippies. Skippies are just little syncopated notes. That's it. Just my little simple name for it. Okay, look at it. So definitely making moves to the outro, because you can see how this is just settling the energy. So no more vocal there, but now we're getting the decay synth. So check this out. Is he going to move it around? I don't know. Let's find out. Let's find out. Okay, so let's open this up a little bit. Get rid of the automation. We'll just draw it in if we need to. But you can hear that come in. Ticka, 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 ticka. Oh my gosh. Again, just playing around. Just playing around. All right, let's see what happens. And then it just starts in a random spot over here too. Okay. And then there's some cutoff that happens over here, cutoff movement. Like these kinds of arrangements are refreshing. And it's cool to see a track like this at the top of the charts because it's very counter to what you would call the meta right now, which is very structured tracks, very similar sound with the indie dance, the electro, which is fine. I love that sound. But this is kind of refreshing too. You get a little bit of a break in a different direction, you know? Okay, and that opens up a little bit back over here. Okay, so stepping down, let's bring this guy over here. Let's just duplicate and see what happens. Okay, so getting a little bit there. Okay, so going up there, and then we're getting another one of these guys right here. Bum, bum, bum. All right, let's then get out of automation mode. Let's duplicate these drums over. What happens right here? So this is still going. Let's get back to automation mode and see what we got to do. Okay, so a little bit open here like that. Okay, this opens like that. Okay, that opens. Okay, and then we get this guy over here at the 4. Wow, okay, man. And so this is just keep on going. Let's see. So this is just wide open right here. And then down. So there we go. So then we get up. So something like that. And then just a little bit up, and then we get this guy over here. But this one is basically just reverb, you know? All right. Okay, there we go. And now we're in the outro. Who knows? Maybe. With a weird bar length. Very cool. Okay. Okay, so we don't have mid bass and we still have this thing going. This guy's still going. And then so we have the mid bass, no mid bass here. This breaks down to just the sub. Okay, no clap. So no clap. Okay, so let's get that going a little bit more. So, boom. So that goes up a little bit, and then he's going to pull this down. Watch. So you hear that get even smaller, even tighter. And that's pretty much gone at that point. Okay, and then this shaker goes away right here. This guy. And then it just stops right there. Man, like I told you, this arrangement is just, it's, you know, you've got two breaks. It's interesting, right? You've got two breaks, so this break and this break, These are pretty similar, except we have a big kind of synth and chord change over there. We've got two main drops, right? And the actual development of the drops is pretty principled in the sense that we're not getting overloaded with sounds. Things are progressing, so we're not just throwing way too much to the listener. We're kind of building up in a strategic way, and we're building tension as we move using this kind of sound with the cutoff automation, also increasing the speed of the vocal here. But I hope the thing to take away from this is like you can color this. A great phrase for this is coloring outside the lines. Like the lines are still there, the principles are still there. We're just bending them. We're just being creative on the outside of them just a little bit. We're still coloring inside and outside. The lines are still there, but we're just going outside the lines a little bit. And in terms of the arrangement and the principles. But another thing is like just the play. Like that's really the main thing to take away from this. It's just that feeling like, man, let's just see what happens. Let's just play around with the sounds, get creative, create a stack, just loop it, just create this massive loop of things that just go down the line. And then you just kind of tell that story over time. 2 breaks, 2 drops, and just kind of let things develop in a way that just kind of feels cool. And those sounds themselves, like if we look at the cutoff automation, he's just standing there with his hand on the cutoff knob, moving it when it feels right. Again, just playing. It's kind of like, and what I mean by play is almost like an improvisational, like jazz player, like improv jazz, where jazz musicians are just kind of like bouncing off each other, but they're all doing their own thing, but they're all playing together. They're all kind of coherent together. And that's why, like, man, this guy's a legend, a master, because like you can just hear it. It's awesome. So I guess that's all I got to say around this. Boiling it all just down to one word again is play. So if you got your own insights and comments about this track, drop them down in the comments section below. You can also download the MIDI map here that I made down below. And I will see you in the next breakdown. All right. Peace.